Hi, my name's Renata. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which deals mainly with three different areas: intercultural communication and expat life, business skills and job search across cultures, and foreign language learning. This particular video is about the second part, business skills and job search across cultures. I deal with a lot of people moving abroad. Sometimes they're expats who go with their corporations, so obviously they don't need to look for a new job, but their spouses do. And I have individuals who move on their own. I help and support when looking for a job in a foreign country. Now, this specific video is about job search in the US. So if you're planning to move to the US, or if you're already here as an expat spouse and you don't know where to start and what's important to know about job search in the US, then this video is for you. I will explain everything you need to know around job search, from resumes to interviews, and hopefully this can help you succeed in your job search here in the United States. I'll be sharing some slides with you, and this is a slightly longer video. I expect to be 40 to 45 minutes. It has a lot of information. You can also watch it step by step, take notes, and really come back when you're ready to watch the next module of the video. So let me show you what's in the video, and also step by step go through all the tips and tricks, everything you need to know about resumes, cover letters, interviews, or simply how to master job search in the US. So we're going to get started with where to look for jobs. What are great platforms? What should you do? Also, your resume. What's important to know about writing a resume specifically for the United States? The cover letter, some things that should go into it. Also, how to present yourself when you go for an interview. And finally, how to ace the interview. So let's get started with where to look for jobs. The most obvious answer is online. You already know about those job postings on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Simply Hired, Glassdoor, CareerBuilder, and so on. So that's definitely a good starting point, just to browse and see what's out there. However, this is most likely not the most successful place to find a job. I very much hope you're on LinkedIn, and if you are, you should add the open to work tag to your profile. I often help my clients set up a LinkedIn profile, optimize it, and help them with their profile to attract the attention of potential suppliers or connect with people who can help them contact the decision maker or meet somebody who could help them find a job, or at least meet people who could be gatekeepers to certain positions. So LinkedIn is an important part or platform to consider. Also, you should check out companies online for their career pages and contact them directly. Looking at job postings like on Indeed, or browsing on LinkedIn, if somebody has published a job posting, is a more passive approach. Contacting the companies directly is a more active approach and usually very successful. Think about your industry. What industry are you in? What type of jobs would you like to have? What have you done so far? What companies are appealing to you, or in which industry can you find positions that are right for you? Go on those companies' websites. Most companies have their own career pages. On those career pages, sometimes you can set up a job search profile. You can upload your resume, you can answer a couple of questions, and then you can quickly apply for whatever appears on that particular company's website as soon as it comes up, because you have already set up your profile. This also shows the company that you have a particular interest in them. You're not just applying to any job ad online as like, okay, I see you're looking for this. How about me? Um, hire me. It's kind of a very, very passive approach, and a lot of companies do appreciate the initiative. You could also contact companies directly. You could do something like an informational interview. A lot of companies wouldn't mind if you call and say, I see that you're in this industry and that you have people working in that particular type of job, and I just moved here. I would like to know what education members of your team typically have, what certificates you would expect. Would you be open for an informational interview? Could I come and gather some information? That sort of interest and initiative is often very, very welcome. Through that contact, you could learn about job openings even before they get published on those online posting platforms. Also consider volunteering and networking. These are great ways to meet people. For example, if you are the expat spouse, meaning your partner got transferred income, it's an income transfer to another country. You go along and you want to find a new job in the new country. You don't have to work immediately, but you do want to. So you could start with volunteering. Volunteering means no pay, but it means a foot in the door. What company would not want you for free? Well, that's usually the way in. If they get to know you, if they see how hard you work, if they see how good you are, how well you master certain situations, then you're the first in line when a job opening comes up. Volunteering is usually a great way in, and by selecting the company or organization you want to volunteer for, you select your dream place of work, your dream job. You can select the area, the company, the organization, the environment you want to be in. And once you're in, you're the first one to hear about job openings long before other people can search for that job online. Also, networking is a great way to meet people. Go to networking events whenever you can. You never know who you meet. Tell your story. Don't say, I'm looking for a job. Can you give me a job? No, but tell them about you. Make connections. Once you've met somebody, add them to your LinkedIn profile and build your network over time. Sooner or later, something great will come of it. And finally, consider freelancing or starting your own business. I know that's a whole different story, but a lot of people forget about this option. This might be right for you. Speak with someone who's done it before. Interview others about their journey and see if that's right for you. Now, when it's time to work on your resume, here are some tips and tricks specifically for the resume in the United States. And if you have lived and worked outside the US, you may realize that it's a bit different from what you're used to. The first thing to consider is to make it ATS friendly. ATS is short for Applicant Tracking System. Now imagine you're applying for a job at a large corporate organization. They have one job, but there could be up to 600, 800, or even more people applying for that one job. So do you think one human being is actually going to look through all of these applications? No. There's going to be a filter, a pre-scanning system in place, the ATS, that will select the most suitable candidates, and the HR or hiring manager will look over maybe 10 or 20 applications max. Maybe not even that. Maybe they'll boil it down to the top five. Well, what you never know how many, but you could be filtered out of the equation even before anybody has had a look at your resume. So in order for that to not happen, here's what you want to do. First of all, you want to use keywords. Look at the job posting. Highlight all the keywords in the job posting. These are the things they require. These are the things they say you have to do or you need to be familiar with. Make sure these keywords appear on your resume. Also, fulfill all the requirements. Maybe you don't fulfill all the requirements. Maybe they say you need at least 5 years of experience on the job. Well, how can you get that into your cover letter or into your resume? You can say that you have many years of experience even though it is less than 5 years, you do have enough experience to successfully do this and that, whatever the job requires. So try to use 5 years, but in a way that you say, even though I do not yet have 5 years, but you have 5 years. That's all the system can identify. Somebody said 5 years. So check the box and make sure you have those keywords and requirements mentioned in your resume. And of course, the cover letter if that's part of the online candidate or recruiting system. Make sure you have an easy to scan format. I know you may like your design and it has graphic elements in it, but that's something the ATS cannot scan. Make sure it's an easy to scan format for that ATS system. That will make it much easier. If there's too much that cannot be scanned, then your resume might get sorted out because it's not suitable for the system. Also, an easy to read font. It doesn't help if you have a fancy looking font. Stick with Arial, Tahoma, or any of the regular fonts that are easy to read. Also avoid columns. I've seen very, very fantastic looking resumes. If I could color print them and put them in a nice shiny envelope and hand them over in person, they would look great. But these days, when we apply online, we want to make it ATS friendly. So unfortunately, that design with different columns doesn't work. The ATS best reads a line by line format. Also, use ATS-friendly formatting such as bold font, italics, underlined words, colors, bullet points. This is what you can use. This is what the ATS can read. But do not use formatting such as tables, graphics, images, logos, headers, and footers. Well, you can use headers and footers, but don't put important information in there. Never put your name and contact information in a header or in a footer, because the header and the footer is not what the ATS can scan. So don't do that. Also, make sure you quantify your achievements. Don't just say that these were your tasks and you did that for 10 years, but think about what you've done. How how much money it was that you were responsible for, how many people you managed, what you were able to sell or achieve, how many new stores you opened, or how many people you trained. Some sort of number. Make sure you make your achievements quantifiable. That's a huge difference between a US resume and, let's say, a European CV, where very often we focus on the tasks and we have a more humble approach. In the US, you really want to toot your horn about your achievements and good numbers, that you have to be like a salesperson when you sell yourself with your resume. That's a huge difference to, let's say, a European CV. As you save your resume, maybe as a PDF, because you're going to send it as an attachment to an email, make sure you get the file name right. So in your file name, you should have your name and the job title. Don't call it something like the company name and it says resume version 5. That would sound odd, but this is okay for you to save it on your own computer. But the version you send should have a really good name and should be suitable for when the company receives it. So make sure it has your name and the job title in it. Also, you should pay very good attention to how you put things in order. What do you put first, second, third, last? Well, start with the contact information. If you have a website, you can include it. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you definitely should include it. If you use other social media that is relevant for the job, then include it. If you're using social media simply for personal entertainment, then don't. But if that's part of your business, part of who you are, if it showcases your work that you do, if you are on social media, let's say as an artist, this is where people can see what you do. Yeah, then of course you need to provide this information. Otherwise, like I said, please don't. It has to be relevant to the position you're applying for. You should continue then with a profile, a professional summary, or a list of highlights, something that describes you, who you are. A quick summary, so I read this and I know who you are. You may want to work on this and really show it to a couple of people or work with someone who has experience writing these summaries, because that highlight is probably the one thing your hiring manager is actually going to read. They're not going to read through the entire resume, I'm sure, and not before the interview. They will most likely look at the rest of your resume when they invite you, but the highlights or some professional summary, this is something they might actually read, so make sure you nail this part. Then you should list your professional experience or work experience and your education. This could be the other way around. It very much depends on where you are in life. If you are a recent graduate and you have more school and academic experience than actual work experience, well, then put education for number 3 and professional experience number 4. But if you're a seasoned professional, it's been 20 years since you graduated from university, well, then lead with your professional experience and put the education at the end. The education part could also contain certificates or additional skills that you have, anything that is relevant, not in your life, but for the job. Always consider, yes, you may be like a Renaissance man or woman. Maybe you've done multiple things in your life and they're all fantastic, but how relevant are these things for the job you're applying for? Leave out the things that are not relevant and focus on the things that the hiring manager for this particular position will want to see. Also choose the right length and content. Make sure your resume is not more than 2 pages. This is super easy when you're fresh graduate. You're actually probably struggling to put a few more things on there. And this is really hard once you are a seasoned professional and you've worked for at least 20 years. Then you really have to learn how to cut it down. Think about the most important jobs. Think about the most recent years, the last 1 or 2 jobs, depending on how long you had them. Focus on those. Focus on what's more relevant for the current job you're applying for. But somehow limited to 2 pages, that's really recommendable. It may be different for an academic position where you have to list a lot of publications, research work, but you could also think of packing all that into a separate document. Even with university professors with a lot of research or seasoned CEOs and executives. I've done resumes for people like that who have given me, you wouldn't believe it, a 9-page resume to work with. But even with that resume, you can cut it down to a summary of 2 pages and then have a separate list for separate things like publications or research work or additional experience. So if you have a lot of job experience, but not all of it is relevant, focus on the relevant job experience in your resume and have a separate document with additional work experience so that you show people you know what is important, you know what you want to show them. Lead with the things that are relevant and important. Also, no font smaller than 12. If you can make it a bit bigger, great. But 12 is fine, but don't try to squeeze more onto 2 pages with a font of 8 or 7 or even 6. That's horrible to read. Even though we read things online and we can enlarge it, it doesn't leave a good impression if you have a teeny tiny font size. Again, like I said, pick up what's relevant and scrap what's irrelevant. That's really hard for most people to do because to you, your entire life and everything you've done is relevant. It is important. So do reach out for professional help. someone with a neutral point of view can help you sort these two things apart. They can help you tell you what is relevant and what is not. Also, skills and experiences that match the job requirements. Just imagine, how can you be the ideal candidate? Well, you need to have all the things that were in the job specification. Everything else, like I said, categorize it as relevant or irrelevant, and if you have to, let go of it. Finally, focus on your achievements. Ideally, quantifiable achievements. How many members of your team, how many successful product launches, how many successful programs, and so on and so forth. Put a number to it whenever you can. Once you're done with your resume, also consider a few things for your cover letter. Usually you should have a person that you can address it to. Dear Mr. Mrs. So-and-so, or dear first name, if you've met them before, thank you for the meeting we had, or thank you for introducing me to, I heard about you from this and that person. Ideally, you should have a connection. You should know who you're writing to and put that person's name there. If not, if you're writing a cover letter, let's say for an online platform, a candidate profile, then you can also put to whom it may concern. That's a very common thing to write. Also, you should refer to the position. You wouldn't believe how many people forget to say that you're applying for this and that position. Don't just say, I'm applying for anything you have in the sales department. Well, that wouldn't be good, right? So make sure you actually name the position that you're looking for or that you saw advertised in a certain place. Mention that as well. Also, you should lead with a statement that refers to your skills and work experience. Make sure they get the idea that you exceed the requirements. Focus on those requirements they mentioned in the job posting. Usually in the cover letter, you need something called a hook, a highlight, or something that is really interesting. Out of all the skills and experience you're supposed to have, what is the most important thing? What is one thing that would wow them and say, "Oof, wow, this person is fantastic for this job," using those keywords from the job ad. So think of the most important thing and use it as a hook to start your cover letter. You should also lace in additional relevant and impressive skills, other things you've done, but really make sure they are relevant. You have to force yourself sometime to not give them your life story, but only the highlights and what is relevant. There should also be a closing statement and a summarizing pitch if you can. And don't forget to end it as a letter after all. Say yours sincerely and don't forget to put your name. Now you've got your resume and your cover letter. So who knows? What's the next step? Maybe the interview? I really very much hope it is. Once you get to actually meet a real human person, yes, very rare these days when we apply online, think about a couple of things, how you want to represent yourself. Don't look at yourself as the cat, look at yourself as the lion in the mirror. Here are a couple of things you should think to yourself. You should know who you are. So these are like mantras to yourself and prepare for them. Say, I know who I am, and then say what that is. Who are you? Put a few things together. You should be able to say that. This is who I am. This is what I want. And I know my strengths and weaknesses. Yes, there's a stereotypical question in interviews. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Sure. But if you don't even know that, if you haven't even prepared for those most basic things, forget about the interview. It's not going to go over well. Also, know your achievements. Those quantifiable achievements, remember? Memorize them, know them by heart, have examples ready to go whenever being asked. Make sure those examples are very measurable, have measurable targets and results and numbers. Kind of learn that by heart. Is almost like you put together the perfect profile of who you are and how you match the job, and then you memorize it. And then everything the job interviewer asks is just a quiz show, and you know the answer. Also, make sure that you emphasize that you can be a team player and work independently. That's something they always want to hear. Tell yourself you're hardworking. Tell yourself you have a can-do attitude and have a positive mindset when you go into the interview. The self-fulfilling prophecy is an important psychological concept to consider. If you beat yourself down by saying, oh, this is not going to go well, they're probably not going to like me, there are a lot of other people who are much better than I am. Oh gosh, I'm dreading this. Well, how well do you think this interview is going to go? You got to go in with that positive mindset. You got to look into the mirror and be that lion. I can do it. Have that can-do attitude. Know that you can do it. Know that I'm well prepared. I'm exactly what they want. Really walk in with your head held up high and the right positive mindset. Also, show everybody that you have an opinion and you're happy to share it eloquently, appropriately, and convincingly. That's what they want to see. How you speak, how you present yourself. Practice what you want to answer to certain questions. And tell yourself, I know how to express myself and attract positive attention. That's the mindset you want to have. That's how you want to present yourself when you go for the interview. Here are a couple of other things to consider for the interview. How to ace the interview. Well, first of all, they're just going to talk about your resume and your career. These should be easy questions to answer. So you should know your career history and you should know how to explain it well. You should also have some examples. They're going to ask you work-related questions. How did you solve these problems? How do you communicate with others? Give me an example for work-related situations, or how did you deal with a difficult customer or a difficult colleague or an unfair boss? So they want to know examples. Make sure you prepare examples for these type of questions. Also, admit mistakes. Don't say I'm perfect. Oh, I never make mistakes. My weakness? Oh, my weakness is I'm too perfect. Don't go for these type of answers. Be realistic. Admit your mistakes. But most importantly, tell them what you have learned from your mistakes and how it has actually made you a better person, a better professional in that field that you want to work in. Also, make sure you have future aspirations. Don't just say, oh, I just want a job. And then when I have it, well, I don't know. I don't really have a career path. You should really know where you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years, or at least have a career path. Some future aspirations. You should definitely know what you want to say when being asked. Also, make sure that you present yourself as the best possible candidate. So everything they want, you have. Or if you don't have everything, then the one or two things you're missing, you can totally learn it. You're a fast learner and so on. So make sure you sell yourself as the best candidate ever. And know yourself. You should know what drives you, what motivates you. They really want to hear something very realistic, something very authentic about yourself, who you are. Remember, one of the things to consider how to present yourself is, I know who I am and I know what I want. That should come through at any time. Also maintain that positive attitude throughout. They will sort of not force you, but trick you to say something negative, like, why did you leave your last job? Is this something you weren't too happy about? Did you like your last boss? So they keep trying. So don't fall for it. Don't go like, oh yeah, that last boss was horrible. Don't do it. Maintain a positive attitude throughout. Focus on your career path, and then this is the next logical step. You just want to advance. There was nothing wrong with the old job. You really wanted it back then, and it was fine for this time, but now you want to move ahead. You want to do something different, whatever it is, but maintain that positive attitude. And instead of being negative, you should make your interest in this job sound like a natural career move. Like I say, make it sound like professional growth. It's not like I'm running away from the old job, I'm running towards the next logical step in my career for professional growth. Don't sound desperate, like, oh, I really need a job by the end of the month. Don't do it. Even if you do, don't sound desperate. Instead, sell yourself by adding value. What value do you add to the company? How could they possibly not take you because this is what you will bring to the table? Also, prepared for some behavioral questions. Here's some examples. What's been the biggest challenge in your current job and how did you handle it? Or you saw a colleague deliberately bending the rules. Would you report them? Why or why not? Or this one, how would you handle a rude client? These are called behavioral questions. Be prepared for them. They can be tricky. I'm going to show you a method how to answer them. And also be prepared to ask questions yourself. At the end of the interview, they always ask, do you have any questions for me? Never ever say, no, I think you answered all my questions. Even if they did, make sure you have a few questions ready to go. I always prepare my clients to write down at least 3 questions. There are a couple of things you can do. There's always good things to ask. So spend a little bit of time thinking about that as well. Now, here's one method how you can answer those difficult behavioral questions. It's called the STAR method, and that's my last tip in this video, how to do a STAR method answer for a behavioral question. So STAR is an acronym. The S stands for situation. So you describe the situation and what's happening. So one of those behavioral questions could be, can you think of a difficult situation or a difficult customer, client, or colleague you had to deal with, and what did you do? So you would start with the situation, just describe what was happening. So for example, you could say I was working in a bank and I had a client. I explained to my client that this is not possible. And the client got really angry, yelled at me and said I was incompetent. So that could be the situation. Then the task is to describe the role, your responsibilities, what one would typically do in that situation. So you could say, well, in my position as a financial advisor, I would normally try to calm down the client and get my manager. Maybe that's, you could say that's our code. That was our code of conduct, that if we can't handle a rude client or if the situation gets out of hand, we can always step away and get the manager. So that would be the typical thing to do. But obviously, you want to shine and say that you did something better than that. And that's the A in STAR, that's action. You describe what you specifically did and how you handled the situation. And this is how you can show that you are actually really the ideal candidate for this position. Because the only reason why they ask you that question is because you might experience a situation like that. And they don't want somebody who just steps away and gets the manager. Maybe they want somebody who gets the job done themselves. So if it's true, and you really stick to the truth as much as possible, really, if you didn't do that, please never ever lie in an interview. So let's say you really did that. And so the action could be, well, normally we can step away from the situation and get the manager, but I felt like I can handle the situation. So first of all, I told the client that I totally understand the frustration. And then I showed them the regulations and how we are as a bank, how we're bound to them. And this is really not something I can personally decide or change. After that, I showed the client several options, what we can actually do. That's when the client started to calm down. So that's the action part. But you definitely want to finish with the R, which is result, the actual outcome, and if possible, a quantifiable achievement. So you could say, well, That made the client very happy. The client even apologized to me, and I said, I perfectly understand. We found a solution for the client. And because the client was so happy, we got a referral from the same client the next month. Well, it has to be true, of course. This is why you want to prepare these type of stories. It has to be true. It's something you've really done. It needs to fit that STAR method. You need to find a situation that was difficult. You mastered it. You went above and beyond. You didn't just do what is T, the task, but you actually did a bit more. You saved the day. That's the A, the action, which led to a desirable outcome. That's R, the result. So this is how you use the STAR method in an interview when you have some of those very difficult behavioral questions. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope I could help you from a general overview to where to find jobs, how to network and contact people, how to write a resume and a cover letter, and how to ace your interview. I hope you're ready. Are you? If you prepare and practice, you will succeed. Ready to go? Well, if you want my help with that, you know where to find me. You can find me online by looking for my name, Renate Urban, or my company name, Urban Training and Services. You can visit my website, or you can contact me on LinkedIn. I very much look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck with your job search. Maybe that's all it took. So good luck, be successful, or if you need more help, a personal coach, reach out to me. I'll be very happy to help you succeed in your job search in the United States. Thank you very much for watching. Welcome to this community and this platform. If you like it, subscribe and see you again soon. Great. Goodbye and have a great day.